He stepped into the diner just after 8 in the morning, the pale light of early spring filtering through the blinds. His suit was impeccably tailored, dark navy with a subtle pinstripe that whispered of wealth rather than shouted it. His shoes gleamed, polished to a mirror finish, and the platinum watch on his wrist caught the neon glow of the coffee sign above the counter. He glanced around, surveying the room with polite detachment as if the chipped formica tables and faded vinyl booths belonged to some distant world. She noticed him the moment he walked in. She was wiping down a table near the window, her auburn, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her uniform was the classic diner look, white blouse, black skirt, a crisp apron tied at the waist, and her name tag read Maggie. She had been working here since she moved to the city 6 months. Earlier, chasing dreams that she only half believed in, she wanted to study graphic design, to one day see her work in magazines or on billboards, but for now she paid her bills one shift at a time. When she looked up at him, her green eyes bright with curiosity, she felt a flutter in her chest. He ordered black coffee and a bacon and egg sandwich, his voice calm, confident. She thanked him, placed the order, then poured his coffee with careful precision. The diner filled with its usual rhythm, the hiss of the grill, the clatter of dishes, the hum of conversation. He studied the menu but didn't seem in a hurry. She brought his coffee first, then the sandwich, and his gaze followed her every move. She tried to ignore it, but she caught his eye once more and managed a polite smile. He smiled back. Over the next few days, he returned at the same time, always, ordering the same thing. She learned to bring the coffee just before the napkin, the utensils, the sandwich. They fell into an easy routine. He introduced himself as Alexander Pierce, though she suspected he used the name more for show than necessity. She told him she was Maggie, and that was enough. She asked simple questions about the weather, about the city, while he answered with courtesy. She never asked about his work, though she wondered. He never asked about her future, though he listened when she talked about school. The distance between them seemed infinite, yet each morning he sat one booth away and she brought him coffee. One morning he left a tip that took her breath away. A crisp $50 bill sat atop the coffee cup, folded around the handle. She stared at it for a long moment, then dared to look up. His eyes were warm, concerned. She caught his gaze and nodded her thanks, her cheeks warming. She thought of all the bills that barely covered her rent, the textbook she had yet to buy. She folded the bill into her apron pocket and pressed on with her work, but her thoughts wandered to him all day. That afternoon, after her shift, she sat on the curb outside the diner, sipping water from a plastic bottle. The city buzzed around her, horns honking, people rushing by, but she felt suspended in her own world. She unfolded the bill again, stared at the president's portrait, felt its weight. She dreamed for a moment of a life where that money wasn't just a tip, but a promise of something better. She leaned back, closed her eyes, and felt tears sting them. He found her there the next morning. His presence startled her. She tucked her hands into her apron pockets, feeling guilty for letting the afternoon slip by without cleaning up. He waited until her shift ended, then stepped around the screen door and asked if she was okay. She blinked at him, words stuck in her throat. He offered her a to-go cup filled with hot coffee, steam curling over its rim. He sat beside her on the curb, eyes gentle. "It's been a long day?" he asked. "Something like that," she murmured, sipping the strong coffee. Her heart beat fast in her chest. "Tell me what's on your mind," he said. He didn't rush her. He just waited. She thought of telling him about her design dreams, about how every dollar she made went into rent or books. She thought of how lonely the city felt. But instead she shrugged. "Just work stuff," he nodded. "I get that." Then he paused. "I want to help you, not just with tips." Her eyes widened. She shook her head. "I can manage." He smiled, a little sadly. "Maybe, but I owe you. You've given this place a spark I didn't know I needed." She looked at him, searching his face, wondering why he cared. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a plain envelope. I'm not giving you money, he said. I'm giving you a chance. This is an invitation to lunch tomorrow. Not here. Somewhere nicer. She frowned. I don't know. He smiled warmly. Please. That night she lay in bed picturing shinier restaurants, menus filled with words she couldn't pronounce. She thought of her worn-out boots and favorite jeans and wondered if she should say no. But she dreamed of a dress she'd saved up for, hanging in her closet, waiting. By morning she had her answer. They met at an upscale bistro downtown, the kind with white tablecloths and polished silver. She felt out of place in her simple outfit, but he waved away her worry. He ordered for both of them, explaining each dish kindly. They talked about small things at first, the city, her classes, his work. He was charming, but not in a practiced way. He had a gentle humor, teasing her about her serious gaze. She laughed, and he laughed, and for a moment she forgot their worlds were miles apart. Then he turned serious. He told her he was developing real estate, building high-rises that stitched neighborhoods together. He'd grown up poor, too, raised in a cramped apartment by his single mother. She listened, surprised. He spoke of sacrificed dreams and endless nights working 3 jobs. He sounded exhausted, haunted even, but hopeful. When he finished, she realized her own story sounded small in comparison. I admire you, she whispered. He took her hand. You're brave, he said. You work hard. You dream. She blushed. She squeezed his hand back. Over the next few weeks they spent more time together. He took her to art exhibits, where she pointed out colors and shapes he never noticed. He introduced her to his world, charity galas and board meetings, where she wore dresses that made her feel like some character in a movie. She showed him her world, the old bookstore she loved, the graffiti wall she passed on her bus route. He scribbled notes when she talked about her design ideas, asked questions, listened. He encouraged her to enroll in a summer workshop, pay for her materials. She painted late into the night, sending him pictures of her sketches. He celebrated each one, making her believe her art had value, but doubt crept in, whispering that he would tire of her world, that eventually he'd see she didn't belong. She masked her fears behind laughter, but sometimes her eyes darkened, with worry. He noticed. One night he walked her home under street lamps, autumn leaves swirling around their feet. She paused at her building door, her heart heavy. I'm not like you, she said softly. I'm not from boardrooms or coffee table books. I'm just me. He cupped her face in his hands. I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be you, the person I fell for. Tears glistened in her eyes. She leaned into his touch. What if I can't give you what you need? He brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. I don't need what I have, I need you. Their first kiss was gentle, electric. Beneath the gold streetlight, the city seemed to hold its breath. She wrapped her arms around him, heart pounding, and in that moment she believed. She believed that love could bridge any chasm. Winter came, bringing snow and landscapes of white. He surprised her with a studio space, warm and bright, where she could work on her art. She spent hours there, painting scenes of their adventures. He brought her coffee and sandwiches, leaving them on a small table. She watched him sometimes, the way he studied her, and she felt a fierce protectiveness. She knew how easily he gave, how much he risked. She vowed to match him. He introduced her to his mother, a woman of dignity and charm. They met at a family luncheon, and his mother embraced her, speaking of Maggie's talent and warmth. Maggie felt welcomed, but also aware of the gulf between her humble beginnings and their polished lineage. She smiled and answered questions, fighting nerves that threatened to unravel her. When they left, his mother slipped her hand into Maggie's and whispered, "You've made him happy." Maggie's heart swelled. By spring, their lives were entwined. She exhibited her first show at a small gallery he'd helped arrange. She wore her favorite dress, heart racing as guests whispered and admired her work. She saw him watching her, pride shining in his eyes, and she felt whole. He toasted her, success standing tall beside her. She realized she had found her place, but even more, she had found herself. One evening, he took her back to the diner where they met. It looked the same, but everything had changed. They sat in their old booth. She ordered coffee, and he ordered the bacon and egg sandwich. They laughed at how young they had been, how unsure. She slipped him a napkin with a small painted heart in the corner. He smiled, traced it with his finger. She reached across the table and held his hand. The diner lights flickered above them, and they were exactly where they belonged. He leaned closer. "Maggie, I know what I want." Her breath caught. She looked into his eyes, found nothing but love and determination there. "How about forever?" he asked. Tears sprang to her eyes, joyful and incredulous. She nodded. "Forever." He stood up, slid across the table, knelt beside her. He pulled a small velvet box from his suit pocket and opened it. Inside, a ring glinted. Simple, elegant, a perfect circle that spoke of unbroken love. She covered her mouth, tears spilling over. He smiled, heart in his eyes. "Maggie Ha."